Yo, what is up everybody? My name is Dingus Crusader and welcome back to a new video. Today we are continuing the series called If I Was a TCM Developer, I Would Do This, That, and yada 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 poop. The first part of the series did very well under a day and I also really appreciate y'all for that. Unfortunately, dyslexia is a bitch and some people couldn't resist to keep their little finger down and immediately call me a dirty family main already. I'm sorry for being a family main, man. I mean, a lot of people say this game is family-sided, but where the fuck are the family players, huh? Jokes aside, my dear viewer, you have to keep in mind, and that is one simple thing. My father and father are not James Charles and Gorlog the Destroyer. Which means that I am not nested on neither TCM Twitter or TCM Reddit. Two of the worst places and part of the communities. I have this thing called a roof over my head. Thank the Lord. Now, if you are a offspring of James Charles and Gorlog the Destroyer, nested in TCM Twitter or Reddit, making one-sided bullshit up and always targeting the other side, then I have one thing to say to you. Go fuck yourself. Kindly. And my last clarification before continuing this series to both part 2 and upcoming parts, I just want to say not every video is going to have changes equally for both victim and family. Some video will have more changes to victim, some to family, and some equal. Keep that in mind. But no, for my last time, I'm not going to make the game a one-sided slop, and no, if I were an actual TCM developer, I would not go on a vacation knowing damn well that my game is in an awful state. Alright, Yapping Tron 6000, let's get started with the first change, and victims are probably gonna love this actually. We're gonna talk about stealth. Man, I remember 50 stealth being OP when the game came out first. Now nobody talks about stealth. It became so bad that White got 5 stealth. The issue with stealth is the fact that there's so many perks in the stealth category that could be built into the attribute itself, making them more powerful when adding attribute points without having to waste perk slots on useless dog shit perks. And my suggested change is let's build some stealth perks into the attribute itself, so as I said before, we don't have to waste perk slots. And we're gonna start off with light on your feet. This perk is literally useless the moment Grandpa wakes up, which is literally every 5 seconds into the game. Now, if you were to build this perk into the stealth attribute, I would not personally change anything about it, because it's just for the beginning of the game and the moment Grandpa wakes up, whether it's the noise or a slide door being opened by victims for the first time ever. Also, it may be OP, but you gotta keep in mind that this only really works in the beginning of the game, and also not everybody is gonna run a full-on stealth attribute build, so there's that. Now, that's slide on your feet build into the stealth attribute, but there's another perk that has my eye that I also want to build into the stealth attribute, which is Twinkle Twinkle Little Toes. Alright, so how would I work with this, you ask? Well, we're gonna make it simple. We're gonna get rid of the percentages you get with the levels. Instead, what I'm gonna do is make it where if you have 25 attribute points invested into stealth, or by default, you have a 25% to not trigger bone chimes. It may sound weak, but you have to keep in mind, it's not because you have a max stealth build that you just can run straight through everything you see and feed. When it comes to this, I don't want people to play brain dead around bone chimes, I still want people to play strategically. Twinkle Toes built into stealth may actually help in chase, but otherwise you really have no reason to run through bone chimes straight away. And my last argument for this is also the fact that you can just cut down bone chimes, so there's no real reason to buff the ante of Twinkle Toes being 100% if you have 50 stealth, so there's that. Now, if these two perks are built into stealth, I do one or two more things. First of all, the stealth attribute should impact how loud and how many times victims are yapping. I'm getting sick and tired of Virginia being schizophrenic and keep mumbling about her godforsaken child Jessie. Having a higher stealth attribute means that I think that either the victim should be yapping less or they should start whispering. And if they do get whisper voice lines, that's more money for the voice actors who actually put more effort into the game than the godforsaken developers, which is mildly interesting but also sad to realize. Now, the last change I may potentially scrap, but this is one you can debate on whether it's good or bad, is the higher the stealth you have, the less detect radius the family has when you're spamming toolboxes. You know when if you spam a toolbox, they can see you from the other side of the map, highlighted in red, the toolbox that is. Well, I think if you were to up your stealth, the radius of being detected should be lessened, so if you have like 50 stealth, they have to be a little bit closer, or any amount of stealth, they have to be a little bit closer to you in order to see the rushed action. But then again, if you have a high stealth build, your noise detection meter already goes up slow, so let's scrap that idea, we're not gonna do that. That's my suggested change to the stealth attribute. The next change, my dear family members, we're gonna return on this subject that has been mentioned several times in the community. We need to make it where the family can start along with the victims besides leather freaking face. You cannot blame victims for rushing. Their goal is to get out as fast as they can, and they want to make sure that the family doesn't have enough prep time to set up traps. But we really need to do something about this as well, because sometimes when I'm not playing Leatherface, when we're playing on gas station, for example, before I reach the gate to enter the middle of the map, I already see people, victims especially, running to the other side of the gates where none of my family members are present, because either my Leatherface is still basement dwelling, or one of my teammates disconnected in the beginning, because I have no clue why. I personally have nothing else really to add to this besides, make family great again. Now, my next change, and the other two will get their parts in later future videos, but we need to talk about Hans. Give him his scout back, and get rid of that ripstall. We're going to get rid of game-breaking abilities, and I'll get to Danny and Wyatt soon enough, but I want to start off with Hans because I have the most experience with him. We're gonna get rid of that ripstall ability, and we're gonna make it that either his electrical traps are his main ability, or his barge is his main ability. Now, I'm gonna go with his barge, because I do feel like I get more value out of barging people than traps. Now, yes, traps are good to essentially lock off areas unless they do effort with bomb squad or bone scraps, but Hans' traps compared to like Nancy or Hitchhiker, it's hard to tell if they are enabled or disabled. And the issue is, when a victim does get shocked by a trap, they lay on the ground, but they have iframes, so they cannot be hurt at all, unless you time it to the point where they're about to fall over, but you hit them in time. That's the only way to get value out of your traps, otherwise it's just like an indicator of, hey, look here, there's a victim trying to touch me and no squares. Unfortunately, Hans' ability tree says enough about how careless they were with making him, because his ability skill tree, even though it's referred to as ripstall, there are mentioning of his traps and barges. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna get rid of those that have to do with the ripstall ability. On the level 1 branch, it's the one on the right. On the level 2 one, it's the one on the left. And on the third one, it's both the left and the right one. Now, the right one, we're gonna make it simple. We're gonna give Hans a extra trap slot, because the only way to trigger the right level 3 one is by essentially ripstalling. But our goal is to get rid of the game-breaking pay-to-win mechanics. So out with that, just give him an extra perk slot, or a trap slot, excuse me. And for the other 3, we're gonna give him an overhaul with a unique perk. The level 1 branch on the right will be replaced with short fuse. If somebody triggers your trap, they're highlighted for a certain amount of time to the person that's playing Hans. But to buff this a little bit, we're gonna make it a universal thing, and we're gonna make it where it's to up of a max of 10 seconds. Now, for the level 2 branch, we're gonna replace it with slow Hans. If a victim triggers your trap, then their interaction speed will be slowed down by a certain amount of percentage. Now, I do personally think that Hans, his traps are the easiest to see and counter compared to that to of Hitchhikers and Nancy, because they can put it in tricky spots. So we're gonna make it where the level 3 ability takes place for the skill tree. Now, let's make this one a little bit interesting for the left top one. We're not gonna replace it with a unique perk, we're gonna actually tinker with the current thing it has. What it does, essentially, the left top one is Hans' damage is increased when he ripstalls something. Now, you see the one to the right, that one increases his barge damage. Let's make this one even more interesting, shall we? It may be a little bit the same, but they can still kind of counteract in the same capacity. You either choose the ability to let your barge do more damage, or my suggested change to the ripstall ability is make it where if you barge somebody, Hans' damage is temporarily increased for whatever percentage the people want. I'd say 10%. For those unaware, it's basically 5% less than level 3 big swings and 10% less than violent level 3. So it's still like doable and viable. Now, for Wyatt's ability, I already went over this in the first part of the TCM Developer series, so there's that. But for Danny, I'll have to do it in the next video, because I'm about to end it here. Don't worry, we'll return on the topic of pay-to-win abilities, and let's make sure if I were a TCM developer, or any of you smart people were developers, then we're gonna avoid the mistakes of adding abilities that can interact with main objectives. Anyway, I want to thank y'all for watching the video. Do you agree with these changes, or do you have some other changes that could be applied, or are you gonna be a straight up dickwad and tell me that I should off myself for being a family main again? Because apparently people are really concerned with the playstyle and preference of some people. Oh boy, this community is cooked. Anywho, my prankster gangsters, thank you so much for watching the video, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Have a good one, and I wish you a good remainder of your day. Bye bye.